Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Brothers and sisters, this is another statement that I would like to show you of Molvi Ahmad Khan, in which he speaks very derogatory and ill regarding the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and his wives. This is again Malfuzat of Ala Hazrat, and this is page 200 and 251, right at the bottom down there. Look what he says. He says, Anbiya alayhimus salatu wassalam की क़ुबूर मुतहरा में अज़वाज मुतहरात पेश की जाती हैं, वो उनके साथ शब्बाशी फरमाते हैं. Astaghfirullah. He says, and he actually quotes Allama Muhammad Abdul Baqi Zurqani rahmatullahi alayhi, who is a famous scholar. He quotes him saying that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is alive inside his graves, which is a aqidah of the Ahlul Sunnah. They are alive inside their graves, and the wives of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam are presented to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam inside his grave, and then he engages in coitus with them. Now, number one, Allama Zurqani rahmatullahi alayhi nowhere in his book has said anything like this. This is not the statement of Allama Zurqani. So that is Molvi Ahmad Khan's first lie, that he has attributed such a grave statement to Allama Zurqani. Second, there is not a single reputable, authenticated scholar who has ever said anything like this or holds such an aqidah. The third thing is, all the reports which have been transmitted from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam in regards to the life of the grave, the life of the Anbiya alayhi salatu wasalam in the graves, merely mention that they pray salah, wa yurzaqun al anbiya wa ahya'un fi quburihim yusallun, that they read salah inside their graves, and that they are given sustenance by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala inside the graves. There is nothing more than that. Now, because this is a ghaibi issue, because this is an issue which is related to the unseen, therefore to bring in your own things and to make up your own things is a grave matter, especially when it comes to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the wives. There are some books which do mention something very similar, but guess what? They are the books of Shia. The Shias have a very famous book. Those who are, who have seen our videos in the Speaker's Corner and other videos, you'll see that we continuously refer to one of their very authentic books, which is Usul al-Kafi. And in Usul al-Kafi, there's a very similar narration in which Jafar Sadiq is obviously a concocted narration in which Jafar Sadiq says that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he is engaged and stays with his wives in his grave. Na'udhu billahi min zalik. No Sunni reputable authenticated scholar has ever said anything like this. This is a grave statement to make regarding the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I just want to just to help you understand, every individual who has parents knows that his parents, they engage. But nobody, no decent child who has got self-respect and respect for his mother and father would ever talk about or even bring the mention of his mother, what goes on in his mother and father's chamber. If this is the level of respect that we have for our parents, then an-nabiyyu awla bil mu'minina min anfusihim. Allahu Akbar. We should have a standard far above our parents, a million billion times far above what we have for our parents, we should have for the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. If we would never ever bring these words, such words on our tongues regarding our own parents, you wouldn't bring it on your own tongue, you wouldn't bring it on your tongue regarding somebody else's parents, then why on earth has this individual who Asrar Rashid accepts as a mujaddid and a reviver of the deen, why is he bringing it on his tongue regarding the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and his wives? Like I said, this can be found in the books of Shia, but in the books of Ahlul Sunnah, by the grace of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you won't find anything. Now look at this. This is something very interesting. You have this edition, I've shown them in the previous videos. You have this edition of the Dawat Islami, printed by and published by Asrar Rashid's Sheikh, who is Ilyas Qadri. So on page 362, the same thing is mentioned. The same thing is mentioned, and he even gives a reference for it, but the reference again is a fabricated reference, because when you go to that reference, then nothing of the sort is found. Now what's more interesting is the third edition to this book. Look at this. This is the third edition to this book, published and printed by the same people, Dawat-e-Islami, Malfuzat Al-Hazrat. And if you look there, I've marked it, they've actually taken it out. They've actually taken it out. Why have they taken it out? Because they know that this is a very derogatory statement to make in regards to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This is a very, very bad thing to say. Like I said, nobody would say this about their own mother and father. And if somebody was to come and ask you, that does your mother and father engage in something like this, knowing that this is a fact, even then you would not like to bring this on your tongue. Rather, you would assault that individual. You would tell that individual to be quiet, and you would not want to bring that on your tongue. Similarly, this is also a very bad statement. And like I said, you do not need the founders of Ulama Deoband to tell you that this is a derogatory and a wrong statement to make regarding the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You need to be an insan, and you need to have a natural, correct disposition to understand that this is wrong. You don't need a scholar. Wa akhir da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen.